disappointing crash out of the Europa League. What are your thoughts? Because for me, I was actually pretty surprised because I felt Arsenal did have a great chance of going far into the Europa League. So it's very unfortunate that Arteta did not take the second leg very seriously, especially after your first leg. Your first leg was tough, a 2-2 draw, right? And then you would think going back to London, he would bring out his strongest team, but he decided to start with a weaker team. And then in the 120th minute, he decides to bring on his strong players. So are you disappointed about now? So it seems like now Arsenal is putting all their eggs in one basket, which is the league. And we still got 10 weeks to go. So what are your thoughts on that? Are you disappointed, or do you feel that this is part of the journey?
So yeah, I agree with your assessment. It felt weird. It felt like, so I thought the first leg he was going to start the weaker squad, but he actually started the strongest squad in the first leg, and then the second leg started the weaker squad. But it was disappointing. I've read or I've heard some journalists and some Arsenal fans say now we can just focus on the league. I personally don't think that's a good strategy. Yes, it's fewer games, but I do feel like the Europa Cup is an easier trophy than the EPL, especially with Man City breathing down your necks. But it was disappointing. I feel like Saka should have started. Partey should have started, although I think Partey is just coming back from an injury. But it was disappointing. I don't think it's a good news story. I think it's an easy. I would rather we had gone for it. And of course, I decided to no longer do the away goals rule, and it would have been nice if we just had that, because we would have gone through. But I understand it. I think now we can just focus on the league. Hopefully, we are injury free for a little bit. But yeah, it was just disappointing. There was a lot of missed chances too. It just felt like we just got unlucky, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because the goalies pulled off some incredible saves. I guess both goalies, to be fair. But I felt like we're on the front foot for basically all the first half. Second half changed a little bit. And then for them to score a goal from like
halfway
mark, that was just like a bad goal to take.
You couldn't make a better script. Especially at the Emirates too. Like that was balls at the Emirates to do that. Like
such a clinical strike too. Like it was just
it's like incredible. How many headers did Gabriel have, right? Like that was crazy. Those were some ridiculous saves. It kind of reminded me of Martinez at the World Cup with Argentina, where it's just like, okay, he's saving everything. He's saving everything today. And it's just like, okay, it's just not going to be our day. But like you said, very disappointed overall, right? Because you want to win as many trophies as you can, because this was such a successful season for Arsenal so far that could end up trophyless, right? Because like we said, City is still, as much as City's not in the best form, especially from what we've seen the last 5 seasons, they still are a team that can, pick up momentum and go on a 10-win game streak. So on a 10-game winning streak. So it's definitely a tough one. It's definitely a tough one. Are you nervous now about the league? Do you feel that you guys have enough players? Because I think it's at that time of the league, that time of the season, where you have all these players that you brought in January. Now you're out of every cup game. So all you have is one game a week. Just kind of like Chelsea's almost there too, with all these players they bought. How are you going to manage all these egos when you have to start pretty much at the same starting 11 to the end of the season? Because I don't think you guys have the luxury to be chopping and changing.
Yeah, I think it's just we're a very injury prone team. So I think it's just injuries are gonna be kind of rotating in and out of the squad. Like Jesus would probably have to bring him in a little bit slower. I don't think we have too deep a squad. I don't think we're definitely not as deep as Chelsea. And it's like one player gets fit, another one goes out. It's like we brought in Jorginho, and then Partey gets injured, Eddie Jesus comes back, and then Ketia goes down. So I think we'll be fine. I am nervous. We have a lot of. I think we still. I think we still have to play. We have to play City, Liverpool, and United. I believe still. And Chelsea.
No, you played United.
We
No,
played
you played.
United,
I think
Chelsea.
Chelsea, you got to
City,
play. Yeah.
Liverpool, Chelsea. Yeah, and I think 2 of them are away. I think the Chelsea one is home. So those teams, those 3 are like our nemesis, right? Like it's like I don't know. City always beats us. Chelsea, I think, first half of the season they were struggling, and I think that's the best performance I've seen us play against Chelsea. But I fully expect them to. João Felix playing like Zidane now all of a sudden, and all this stuff. Like it's making me. And then Liverpool, they just like
the goal.
Yeah, and then Liverpool, they just like to beat big teams, right? That's what they do. So I think that's those 3 fixtures are keep making me a little bit nervous. Oh, and we still have to go to Newcastle as well. So like, I'm just afraid of our fixtures because all it takes is 1 loss, and well, you've seen Arsenal in the past. We don't do well under pressure.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. How would you rate the season so far? So let's say Arteta doesn't win the league. How would you rate the season? Would you say this was a failure, or because obviously coming into the season back in September, no one ever imagined that Arsenal would be top of the league, till what is it, March 20th? Usually we know, usually the table usually changes by December, where City goes on top, and then it's just game over. They have a chokehold on the league, right, till the end of the season. But so far, like I said, City has not had the best of seasons, but they're still pretty much on your tail. Would you say that this would be a failure, or would you feel like this was definitely a massive step in the right direction, and then hopefully you guys can invest a lot more in the summer to get you over that line, hopefully next year?
Yeah, I think it'd be a disappointment. I wouldn't say a failure because at the beginning of the season we just wanted top 4, to be honest. We were just trying to qualify for Champions League, so we're kind of overshooting our expectation. I'd say it's like a missed opportunity. And the thing that makes me nervous is I fully expect next year's league to be a lot different to this year. I fully expect Chelsea to be in there, City, United, and Liverpool. I'm sure they're gonna just go by everybody this summer. So it's more of a missed opportunity. It would be disappointing, but it would definitely not be a failure. I think so far the fact that we're basically almost locked into top 4, that was our objective at the beginning of the year. I wish we didn't crash out of all the cups. It would be nice if we just won the FA Cup or something. But and ending the season trophyless would be a disappointment only because it's like now we've been made to dream. It's a lot easier when there was no hope, but now that there's hope, it's like if you lose it now, it's almost like it's like getting to the Champions League final and losing the final. It just kind of feels that way.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. You're right, because it's the same thing with with United. Just really quick, when we lost that 7-0 to Liverpool, the 7-Up. First of all, I've never seen so many 7-Up cans. That was definitely an embarrassment. But a lot of fans were overreacting, saying that we have to win the FA Cup and we have 7-Ups are banned from this residence, okay? Oh yeah, what's it called? Oh yeah, sorry, just really quick. So a lot of fans on Twitter, on just everywhere, saying that this is a disgrace to our history. Ten Hag has to win the FA Cup and the Europa League to make up for this. And I'm just looking at you guys like, are you kidding me, man? Like, where have you guys been all season? And it's like, where we were coming from last season, we did not expect to be when we like how we started the season, losing to Brentford, losing to Brighton. We did not expect to be where we are today, right? So, and then we had just come from winning the cup.
I think you're frozen.
Did I freeze there? Am I back? Oh, okay. Because I saw you freeze first, and I was like, and I saw everybody freeze. Okay. So yeah, for me, it was just pretty funny because it was like okay, we've come this far, and you're already so ungrateful, So I can definitely see that same with Arsenal fans that are already getting overreactionary. So, and just really quick, since we're on the Arsenal game against Crystal Palace, what are your thoughts? So there's a lot of talk on Saka being player of the season. I want to get Eze's thoughts on that as well. And what is your thoughts on Patrick Viera being sacked? This came as a shock to me because I'm like, Patrick Viera, I thought he was doing all right. Yes, he's not that far from the relegation zone, but it just shows you how tight the league is this year, right? Crystal Palace is in 12th place, but they're like 3 points away from the relegation zone. So, what are your thoughts on Saka, player of the season, and Patrick Viera's exit at Crystal Palace?
I think so. I think Saka, player of the season. I think a lot of Arsenal fans are just getting really excited. Like Saka, I think he's got 10 goals, 10 assists, and all that. It's double trouble. I think he's probably our best player this season. But I feel like there's a couple of other players. I think that what Saka has going for him is that he basically plays every minute of every game. So the fact that he's that consistent over that period, I think there's a couple of shouts. I think like half of the City squad. I know De Bruyne hasn't. Pep and De Bruyne are like having a little breakup or whatever it is, but he's still like setting records for assists. I think Haaland deserves a shout, just based on the sheer number of goals that he's provided. Casemiro would have been in there if he just stopped getting red carded. But I think Saka is. I think it's probably going to win it, especially if Arsenal wins the league. I'm pretty sure he's going to win Player of the Season, and I think at that point it would be deserved because he has been our best player.
Yeah.
And if we win the league, then I guess our best player should be Player of the Season.
Yeah, that makes sense. And you're right. I think, like you said, with the Haaland and I think it kind of just goes back to that whole conversation we had about Jesus and Haaland and Casemiro. At the end of the day, it's all about what their numbers are doing for the team, right? Because you look a lot of times with City, and this is my thing with Haaland is, all these hat tricks and all these goals are coming against relegation sides. They're not, and they're all coming in spurts in one game, right? He scored 5 goals in one game, and it's like, that's fantastic. It's the same thing like Ronaldo last season, similar. He scored 3 hat tricks last season, and he was like 20 goals, and everybody was all getting gassed. But he scored the 20 goals in 7 games. So it's like, does that, did the stats always reflect the reality, what's actually happening on the pitch, right? So I definitely see where you're coming from, but obviously they're at the top of the charts, right? The leading board in terms of assist, goal scoring, and Saka is very vital to his team. And I think, like you said, if they do win the league, then it's only right that you give it to Saka. Because if City won the league, we're definitely going to give it to KDB, right? It's just works. So I would hope that Saka would get it in that. And just really quick, your thoughts on Patrick Viera?
Yeah, I thought he was doing pretty well in the first half of the season. The second half of the season, I think I read somewhere that they haven't. I think they've only picked up 1 point since January. So it's like pretty dire. And then they had gone some like 100 and almost like 2 games without creating a shot on target. So it just felt like he had kind of taken that team to where he could take them. And it's just one of those things. It's like the Leeds thing where it's like sometimes you just need fresh ideas. Like it's horrible once you get into like a slump, like just a losing back-to-back culture. And I think I think the sack was unfortunate, but I think it was justified because taking up 1 point in 2023 is just not good enough.
Yeah. Okay. Ezra, you can chime in on this because I was listening to people sort of feel that it's very unfair and it's too soon, right? There's other coaches in the league that are doing worse than he is, and also Crystal Palace has had some injuries to their main players, right? Especially Zaha just came back from injury.
Mm-hmm.
So people were saying that, was it just because of the injuries that he had that he didn't have the personnel to play these games? And then also some people pulled the racist card that, because even look at what's his name, Santos from Spurs, didn't even get a sniff. He was already out the door. But you have guys like Frank Lampard, Graham Potter, that's what people call Harry Potter. Like all these guys are still at their jobs, right? Because who's his replacement? What's his name? Is it Allardyce? His replacement.
Hodgson?
Sorry?
What at Crystal Palace?
Yeah. It's like those like very generic the guys that they always bring to save the relegation teams.
Yeah, I heard it was going to be Roy Hodgson. No?
Roy Hudson. Yeah, it's like, okay, so you just basically went back to Roy Hudson? Like, really?
Yeah, he was there before. I think he was there right before Viera took over. Yeah, no, it's a little bit.
So it's like, okay, so you literally left. It's like you left the past and you're going back to the past. Like, it's like, okay, and it's half the season, and it's like you said, you got to look at the league as a whole. Yes, they're sitting 12th, but look at how tight the league is, right? In terms of last place to 12th place. So, yeah. So, what's your thought on that? Do you feel like it's unjust? Do you feel there's a bit of bias to black coaches in the league?
For sure. No, it's a really interesting question to kind of go over. I have takes on numerous things we brought up, but I'll start with this one. With the Crystal Palace team, I don't think their team's very good, to be honest, on paper. I think if we're putting the team down on paper, I think they're one of the top 4 worst sides in the league. Outside of Zaha and my namesake, Eze, everybody else is kind of...
What about Olise? Come on, man.
He has 2 goals, right? He has 2 goals in total the entire season. I don't get all the Olise hype. And with Olise...
But the system is not... I guess the system's not working.
Plus, I don't see them playing... I haven't watched too many other games, but from what I've seen with Viera, he's not playing all 3 of them that many minutes together, right? Because I see Eze coming on for Olise coming off, Zaha playing majority of the minutes, but like he never plays all 3 of them all at once at the same time, right? So I don't know how much value you can get out of that. But on paper, I think the team is very good. With that in mind, Viera getting the sack when he did, I think when you're thinking about sacking a manager, you have to think about who else is there to replace him. And going back to Hodgson just doesn't make sense. There's nobody knocking down Roy Hodgson's door to manage a Premier League side outside of them, So I would have given him more time, but it's difficult. It's a tough one to understand. Outside of that take, quickly before I move on here, I have a lot of tabs open. This Saka player of the season nonsense. It needs to stop. It needs to stop, guys. Not just because I hate Arsenal so much, but I'm looking on transfer mark. 13 goals, all competitions, 13 goals, 10 assists, right? And they're 9 points clear of City with 1 game in hand. Erling Haaland has 42 goals, 5 assists. How are both these players even comparable to one another? It's more than double.
But are you just going based on stats, or are you going based on the context of the stats?
Well, within the side, they're 9 points back with 1 game in hand, so basically 6 points, if we're being honest. Their sides are very close when it comes to like how productive they are. You can argue that Haaland is more influential to City because he's scoring 42 out of their how many 60-something goals. That's like over like 60% of the goals he's responsible for. You can make an argument that he is more integral to the team winning than Saka is to Arsenal.
But you could also make the argument in those 40 goals, in how many games of the season did those 40 goals come in? And it's in all competitions, right? It's not just in the league. But
42 goals in 37 games. What are we doing?
No, but I mean the ratio. Like I said, I explained about the Ronaldo situation. He had 20 goals in 38 games, but those 20 goals came in. I can count them with my 10 fingers.
Oh, do you think that's what's happening with Erling Haaland?
That's what is happening with Erling Haaland. He has these games where he goes he plays Southampton and then he scores 5 goals, and then he goes quiet for like 2 weeks. And then, trust me, because I've been captain Erling Haaland, and he's been disappointing me a lot. So that's how I know. Because when he does well, it's fantastic. Then there's you go weeks where he gives you 1 or 2 points. That's what I'm saying. Is he will have these games where he will just tap ins. You know,
I understand what you're saying,
Josh. In the Champions League. It's a lot of stuffy, you know, it bounces off a player's shoulders. He's there. Fantastic. You know, it's nice to have poachers. It's nice to have guys that are aggressive for goal. But I just feel that Saka is giving more value to Arsenal than Haaland is.
I just to say this, I'm looking at all the games he's played. Only in 6 games out of the 37 has he not got his goal or an assist. 6 out of 37.
36? Are you sure about that?
I'm looking at it right now. So I'm looking. So I'm on. If you,
in the Premier League, or is this okay? I might be. My memory might be failing me
this
then.
Is all competitions, right? On Transfer Mark, right? Go to the games, and then I counted here: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games in total out of 37 that he hasn't got a goal or assist. Like that's what I'm trying to say. I think when certain players are so good, I think we do this thing that we try to like bring it back down to earth. You know what I mean? I don't think any other world. If Haaland was playing for Arsenal right now and they were second, every single Arsenal supporter would be saying Haaland should be player of the season. Come on.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. I think it's a fair point because if he. It's like you just can't. It doesn't matter if he's not the best or prettiest, best style of play. It's just difficult to discount that number of goals. It's like what Ronaldo was doing when he was at Madrid. Ronaldo and Messi and whatnot. It's like like Messi scored 1 year. In a calendar year, he scored 91 goals. It's like just give him the Ballon d'Or already. Like Ronaldo did. He scored over 60 goals in 4 consecutive seasons and stuff like that. It's like there's just a sheer number of goals that like you just can't. It's just I think if City win the league, I think Haaland's is player of the. I think if City win Champions League or the league, especially the Champions League, Haaland might even have a shout for Ballon d'Or at that point, just because of the number of goals. Like it's just too difficult to ignore that volume of goals. He's going to score like 60 goals in the season.
Oh, 100%. Let me ask you this, because I know
you know what it is, and I think it's also like you said, it's because there's certain things that are too tangible, right? It's like even though like all of us, take away the goals. Like what if we talk about like who, the footballers, right? I don't think Haaland will even be in that conversation, right? But like you said, it's because if you score this number of goals, it's kind of like Rashford, right? I still don't believe Rashford is United's best player, but he's scoring a goal every game. So like you said, it's very hard to say, because if he was not scoring those goals, we would not be top 4, right? So it's like so I can kind of see where you're going with this. I think for me, the reason I just look at, I just look at how, like when Saka is not on Arsenal, how Arsenal plays versus Haaland not being in City, somebody else is going to score those goals. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to, like the 40 goals that he scored this season, if you look back at City's past records, I'm sure between Sterling and Jesus, they probably scored double that. I mean, double that. Not double that, but they probably scored 15 a season. 25, not 25, but they probably scored a fair share of goals that he's scoring. Not saying that he's not doing a lot more than them in a sense, but I just feel like the way City's machine is, like Lewandowski might be doing the same thing at City, right? But it might just be my bias. It might just be the way I look at City and my bias. It's the same. Kels knows it's the same beef I have for KDB, because sometimes when players I just look at, I'm just like, it's like Jordan Henderson, those guys where it's like when Liverpool was on top and everybody was trying to say that he's the best midfielder in the world, and it's like, I get it, but sometimes it's more of the system that these guys are in versus them individually, right? But like you said, you can't take away the goals. Are you frozen there, Kels?
I think it might be, yeah.
It's like he's taking a solid nap.
Yeah, but I'll leave it here with this. But obviously, I hate Arsenal with a extreme passion. So anything good for them is bad for me. But
yeah, definitely. But
I just know for a fact, like this Holland thing, like 42 goals, 37 games. If this player was playing for any other team, they would be saying if he was English, it'd be over. He already won. He already won for player of the season if he was English.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
He was playing for Arsenal.
No, but I think everybody in the league wants him to win it, right? I think it's just more of I think everybody is sharing the sentiment about Haaland winning the I think Saka is just more of, but I think this is where the debate lies, right? I think the people who are saying Saka are people like myself that are looking at the game as a whole, right?
Okay. But wait.
And then
what about
Haaland? They're just saying the number. And this is the thing. This is so like really quick. So that's why I think the camp is divided. The people who are saying Saka are looking at the full game and saying, okay, what does he do for the full team? People that are saying Haaland are just going for goals. It's like you can make that argument about the BBC, right? Cristiano Ronaldo got all the goals. But now that Cristiano Ronaldo has left, a lot of us before already knew the kind of work that Benzema was doing at Real Madrid. But Ronaldo was finishing the goal. He was the one getting all the goals, right? So Ronaldo won all the Ballon d'Ors because people were looking at just the sheer goals, right? Mm-hmm. But Benzema, Bale, these guys were so instrumental. Without those guys, Ronaldo is not scoring that many goals, right? Same thing with Messi, Argentina at the World Cup. You know, everyone was so gassed about it. I don't think Messi was the best player in the World Cup by anywhere close. I don't think he was the best player. He had a lot of people run for him that played their socks off for Messi. And Messi is like the cherry on top of the cake, right? So, but Messi is going to get all the accolades, right? Because it's his name on the headlines. So this is what I'm trying to say. So I think the camp is divided where people for Saka, I think we're seeing more of the entire game.
Kels, let me ask you this, man. Because when I'm watching Arsenal play, I'm looking at Odegaard and I'm like, okay, this is the guy making this whole thing go. That's what makes sense to me. He's receiving the ball back to goal. He'll turn. He'll play in Saka. He'll play in Martinelli. Run into the box later on. You know what I mean? To me, at least, a novice watching Arsenal, I would say if it was a player of the season on that team, it would be Odegaard over Saka. What do you think about that?
Yeah, both. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Odegaard is Arsenal's best player. I was really, when I was talking about the Europa game, I was really kind of disappointed that he didn't start because our team is just completely different. Like he's the one that makes everything tick. Mm-hmm. Saka, in a weird way, is like basically Haaland to City, it's Saka to Arsenal. Like he gets all the goals, he gets all the assists, and he does all that. But like it's like Madrid a couple of years ago, or a while ago now, where it was like whatever games Xabi Alonso didn't start, we would just automatically not win. It was like there was that one season where it was just like if he's not starting, we're not winning. Ronaldo will get us hat tricks and blah blah blah, but it's like it's the glue that. But these players are like it's just soccer. It's like basketball, like Westbrook or Carmelo Anthony and these people and scoring champions, blah blah blah. You're never going to win a championship. We just know that those players are not going to win a championship, and I think that's what I think we're just getting turned by the stats. But I agree with you. Odegaard is our best player, and I'd say he is the one who, when he doesn't play, we miss the most. Trossard, since he's coming, has kind of bridged that gap a bit. But Saka, I mean, it's just a pacey winger. It's not just a pacey winger; he's a really good player.
Yeah.
But we have options on the wings, and him coming up, him not starting doesn't make me as nervous as Odegaard not. Like if Odegaard gets injured, we're not winning the league. We can win the league if Saka gets injured. We can, in my opinion.
I would agree.
That's fair. I do agree with that. But I think this is where. But this is why I like conversations like this, right? It's just to make sure that we have these checks and balances because I still believe that Messi and Ronaldo changed how we look at the game, right? And I think because of how many goals they scored, it took away from the beautiful part of it, the team part of it, the intangibles doing, because I remember Kel's like growing up. I remember you used to, you're the one that really taught me about like started noticing, actually appreciating center defensive midfielders. You know what I mean? Like, because back then you don't know what they did. Roy Keane, Makalele, all these guys, you just didn't know what they did, right? Because you just don't see them. They don't score goals. Their name is never on the team sheet, on the score sheet, right? So you don't really appreciate them. And I just wanted to make sure that. So for me, when I analyze, when we're just giving people accolades, it's making sure that we're actually rewarding true talent and people that are actually making us watch the games. Because me as a footballer, me as a football fan, is more than just the goal scoring that made me fall in love with the game, right? If not, probably my favorite player would have been, I don't know who the top goal scorers were back in the day, but would have just been somebody like Chicharito, that's maybe somebody that just scored a lot of goals. Like, I don't know, maybe like a Crespo and Inzaghi or someone like that scored a lot of goals. But the rest of their game was, was left to be desired,